Councillor Tony Patterson can't be with us this evening, sends his apologies. I'm sorry, I should have said that earlier. We're going to have a couple of minutes each. Who'd like to start? Councillor Crookdale.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Crookdale from Mortlake and Barnes Common. Over the last 2 years, I've worked hard with residents to create a more caring and inclusive Mortlake and Barnes Common. For example, with the lovely Timmy and Will, we've established the MCA Cafe and Advice Hub in Mortlake Hall on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 12 till 3, where I work as a weekly volunteer. I collaborated closely with the Power Station Youth Centre and the Parent Champion Network to establish the food bank and cafe on Mondays and to ensure youth services are maintained. I initiated the Mortlake Meetup for frontline professionals who offer services to residents in the area to build relationships amongst providers. I've also worked hard to improve residents' living conditions, including damp and mould disrepairs, disability improvements and pest control. I continue to lobby landlords to prioritise ambitious investment in retrofit and preventative work. On the environmental side, working with RHP and others, we're applying for grants to create sustainable community facilities at Mortlake Hall and provide flood resistance and regeneration of the drying areas behind the flats on Mortlake High Street. It would be great to hear residents' views of these proposals. I've also been involved with waste, litter, bin, gardening and growing projects across the ward to improve our environment. 1,400 residents signed the petition for an updated transport strategy, which was supported by local societies, asking for improvements to road walking and cycling routes to ease congestion in the ward and around Mortlake Station. This is an ongoing project with the council. On the planning side, I've lobbied the council to work on a corporate scale with housing associations to help regenerate the ward outside of the Stag boundary and continue to press for greater affordable housing and community facilities on the Stag site. At Barnes Hospital, I've worked with local residents to ensure their views were heard by councillors and officers. And in relation to the local plan, I've lobbied hard for greater recognition of Mortlake and Barnes Common ward. We are the biggest in the borough after all. I'd like to thank my fellow ward councillors, Councillor McNulty Howard and Councillor Patterson, who cannot be with us tonight. Their mutual support is very welcome and most importantly helps get things done. I'm not complacent and I know there is still a lot to do in so many areas. And look forward to hearing residents' views on what you'd like me to focus on during the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to let you know, I spoke with Councillor Patterson just before I came here. He's having treatment. It's having a pleasant effect on him, and he has to self-isolate because he's lost his immune system. I'm hoping he's going to get better. And he asked me on his behalf to mention a number of things he thought that we'd achieved together, and he in particular had done. He's been very, very good on doing housing disrepairs in the social housing that we've got. Most particularly, he pressed very strongly for the implementation of the lift replacement at Churchy Court, which has been delayed and delayed, and eventually we did manage to get the 2.4 million released for those lift replacements to go forward. Very much, Tony did a lot of work in that respect. We've also done a lot in terms of antisocial behaviour. Tony in particular more recently had issues about protecting people who were having stones thrown from one side of the railway, from South Warple to North Warple, damaging people's homes. And we did a very good job there of collating Safer Neighbourhood team, Railway Police, Parks Police, and 2 or 3 other organisations and the site developments at Barnes Hospital to get that problem resolved. And throughout the time we've been councillors, along with Councillor Crookdale, who've done a great deal to ensure that the Safer Neighbourhood team is beefed up. There's now a sergeant for it. There's now an extra constable. And what was usually a team of 2 has gone up to about 4. There's still lots of problems, we're aware of them, but the crime statistics do indicate that there's been quite a reduction in the number of issues that were bothersome. However, we have noticed 1 or 2 new spots, and we're working again with the network that's been established to reduce that problem. Moving forward, we've also done a great deal in respect to trying to get the environment done. A little bit of good in the area. We've worked with Heritage and Habitats. They've done a great deal of good work on the towpath and the Mortlake Green. Incidentally, there is a Friends of Mortlake Green which we're trying to start up on. And if anyone wants to talk to you about it afterwards, I'd love to chat with you. We want to do some improvements there. when we started, we found that there hadn't been surgeries run for locals, so the 3 councillors have instigated a monthly session at the youth club, which is the power station on Mortlake High Street. So if you've got any issues, please do come along and see us personally there. Again, a lot of people are very familiar with email, and we've been inundated with emails about a lot of issues concerning traffic fines, refuse problems, and actions being taken by all councils to ensure that the refuse service is improving, that there is bins cleared regularly, and that we are devoting more and closer attention to make sure that problems don't arise. We are looking at the improvement in the north and south walkways for traffic flows. We know that there are big problems with rat runs, and I gather that there is a thing coming for the traffic committee in the next month, and we should see an implementation of restrictions on going to and from those areas, which should reduce the rat run problem. Okay, I'd like to speak to a lot of issues, but we haven't got time. Again, you will be getting leaflets through your doors, and we'll try and summarise what we think are the big achievements we've had recently. And I'll just leave that there. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Everyone's clearly been very, very busy. So next we move into our issues-based section. So as I said earlier, we've got 4 issues to discuss. So you're going to hear from 4 of our councillors, a couple of minutes each, and then we want to hear from you, because obviously we've talked quite a lot by that point. So we'll be looking to hear your comments and observations. So we are starting, I think, with community safety. Is that right, Councillor Cookday? Yeah. Here we go. Thank you.
Community safety. Everyone has a right to feel safe. 70% of reported crime relates to antisocial behaviour, with drugs and alcohol often a root cause. All councillors have heard the terrible impact this has on communities, and we have all been working with resident groups, the police, housing associations, health council and council services to address this problem since May 2022. The main complaint from residents is that any meaningful action takes far too long. Typically, residents report issues for years, often very fearful of reprisals, and then give up reporting, feeling powerless. Hearing we are the safest borough in London is no comfort to those who bear the brunt of this behaviour. Addressing complex, multi-agency issues like these requires a coordinated response within legal constraints, which unfortunately takes time. I initiated a debate in full council to discuss how we could improve response times with additional council investment. This includes more community safety officers, additional CCTV and better street lighting, a lot of which has been actioned. However, we could do more to tackle the root causes. The focus on independent living in the community does not help perpetrators who are dealing with mental health and substance abuse issues. Additional investment in specialist supported housing would accommodate those who cannot maintain a tenancy, and I hope that this will be realised soon. Councillor Millard's Community Ambassador Scheme and More Bobbies on the Beat helps build resilient communities, which is essential for continued reporting. I fully support the Safe Space at Richmond Station, the Ask Angela scheme and the White Ribbon Walks, focused on keeping women and young girls safe. An additional police station or base would also help residents to feel safe and act as a deterrent. Improved communication, for example, including the Safer Neighbourhood Board and PLD meetings on Richmond's website, would make it easier for residents to know where to go to hold the police and council to account. Our very experienced Community Safety Officer, David Noakes, has developed a multi-agency plan for the area to ensure all intelligence is collected efficiently and acted upon as soon as possible to prevent escalation. This is starting to generate results. However, we know we have much more to do. We are all committed to improving community safety and would like to hear from residents whether you feel safe in your neighbourhood and what we can do to make you feel safer.
Great, thank you very much. Well, I know community safety is an issue that affects all of us, and we'll all have children that we're concerned about when they're out on the streets in the evening, and other family members. So we want to hear from you now. We're going to open the floor for your comments and observations. Remember, I do have a couple of colleagues roving with mics, so if you want to say something, please put your hand up and please speak clearly into the mic. Oh, and if you could please say your name and which ward you're from, and if you're not sure which ward you're in, perhaps just say your street name so we know roughly where you are, and then the councillors will respond. Thank you. Okay, so I have an enthusiastic lady here in a white jumper.
Thank you. Is it turned on? Hold it right here. Okay.
That's it, like an ice cream.
I'm not used to microphones. Well, just good evening and thank you so much for making this possible this evening. We have had many meetings in this hall over the years, and it would be really great to know that some of the issues we raised tonight at least could be truly heard and acted on. I've got two things that I would like to raise. I live in Mortlake, I live on Alder Road.
Sorry, what was your name?
Una O'Brien, yeah.
Oh, yes, we know.
And so I want to raise these 2 points about Alder Road. It was interesting, Nikki, I appreciate you've been talking about community safety, but I don't feel safe on Alder Road. And why don't I feel safe on Alder Road? Because on a very narrow pavement, we have constantly got cars and lorries driving on the pavement. And I think it's now 4 years since we've been raising this with the council, and I know you, Nikki, have come and looked and spent time with me. We have a nursery for the under fives, we have the guide hut, the scout hut, we have the community garden, and people are driving on the pavement or they're speeding, no enforcement of 20 miles zone whatsoever. I want to just state publicly tonight that we've all got to take responsibility for the fact that there could be a very serious accident on that road. So please, can we have action to stop this from going on? It's linked to the rat running on North Warple Way. And we would ask really very humbly to be involved in the decisions that are going to be made about the flow of traffic. So that was my first point. I won't labour it any further. I want to just move on to my second point, which is thank you, Anton, for mentioning Mortlake Green. I'm happy to volunteer, and I know others will. So great to see money. I just see here Vine Road, 29,000, Suffolk Road Recreation Ground, 15,000. If we look at Mortlake Green, and believe me, I'm a huge supporter of Thompson House. They are wonderful people. It's a great school. But it is heartbreaking that is used throughout the day, each day, effectively as a playground. If you go and look at it in the daylight, you will see yourself that it's now become Mortlake mud. Not because of any fault of anyone, but the intensity of the use. I'm worried about safeguarding for the kids. They're out there in an unprotected area. I've never seen anything like it, to be honest. Playtime, lunchtime and classes, PE classes run there. It's not fair on them, it's not fair on us. It's a tiny open space. We have to pay attention to what's going on in Mortlake Green. Drug dealing, quite common there, people get off the train and dealing. Fundamentally, it needs a proper look. So forming the committee will be brilliant, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we've got 2 issues there. A round of applause. Thank you, Una. Where should we start? Should we start with the Alder Road?
I'll do the transport one.
You want to do the transport one, Antonio?
I'm not sure if you have seen the things which might have come through your door, but about 2 years ago, when we were actually campaigning, local council, traffic department did a consultation. That's been going through the mill. I know as council have been looking at drafts on how to improve that consultation process. And Alders Road and basically the area between Sheen Lane and White Hart Lane, bounded by the railway and the Mortlake High Street, will get a new scheme. And I was hoping that you would have received the things through the door. If not, I'll go back to the traffic committee.
I don't know about the scheme, so maybe someone else.
It has happened, believe it or not. There will be a discussion of it going to the transport committee, I think in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. I've got your email link somewhere, and I'll send you a copy of the documentation. But there are a number of suggestions. I will sort something out. I've tried on a previous occasion, and I know Kate remembers this maybe, I tried to hire Mortlake Hall to get a public meeting. It hasn't quite come off because they've made further changes. It's not that we've not been trying. My understanding was that a number of surveys have been done. I'm surprised that you've not been involved.
Maybe we need to pick this up and yes, find out what the status is and get back to you.
I'm so glad that we've had this chance to let
Yeah. I mean, I know as a resident, I live in that area as well, that stuff has been happening. There's been consultations, but it would be useful to know exactly where we are. So yeah, let's follow that up.
Should I do
Mortlake Green. I mean, I know this is a real challenge with the school.
It's a real challenge, and unfortunately to say, it sort of got a lot more difficult post obviously the stag planning decision, because the proposals originally, which were to relocate Thompson House onto that site, that opportunity is now passed, and effectively, as you say, you know, we have 600 primary school children potentially with nowhere to play. This was raised, for those of you who listened in to the planning committee meeting, it was raised a number of times by people around the table, and also by Kelly, who spoke very eloquently on this subject. It wasn't resolved in that meeting, as we know, and I think this is something that really, as you say, needs very, very careful consideration. It cannot be allowed to happen. Just to say, the older road, my understanding is there will be a consultation which is coming out to residents very soon. So watch this.
Thank you. Councillor wants to say something about Alder Road as well.
I wasn't going to take on Alder Road. I was going to speak about when you spoke about speeding. So
Speeding, sorry.
I can just get along with that. So it's only the police that can enforce the 20 mile per hour speeding limits. And although we do try and encourage drivers not to speed, and they can put equipment up, like, I don't know the technical name for it, but you know, the smiley faces that you get when you're not breaking the speed limit. But there is a forum that you might feel you could take some power back for yourselves, working with the Met Police, and it's called the Community Road Watch. And it gives you the opportunity to work with police using their speed detection equipment and identifying speeding drivers, and they're sent warning letters. So I know that's used in Barnes on Lonsdale Road. It might be something worth considering.
Definitely, I've done that before with a speed gun. Go ahead. Sorry, Councillor Cambridge wants to say something as well, and then I'll take her.
Okay, thanks, Una. I've been to your road with Councillor Aymer, and I remember, very dangerous. I'm really glad, and Anton will be able to fill you in, and Nikki, about the consultation that happened and about the plans that are now going to happen on North Wolf. What I am here to talk about briefly is Mortlake Green. Not my ward, obviously Anton, Nikki's and Tony's, but you will perhaps know the sort of Section 106 agreements and the financial investment that will be going into that area if and when the Stag Brewery progresses. And I note that £175,000 is potentially going to go into Mortlake Green improvements, and I hope we'll see that.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Okay, I think.
But when will that start? Because I just see High Road and Suffolk Road have got their money, so will we be getting ours?
Yeah, I think that Section 106 will come through once the development's been built. I believe that's right. Broadly. Let's pick this up later, Una, if that's okay. We'll move on, and I think there was a lady at the back. Yes, there you go. Please state your name and which ward you're in. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Beeching, and I'm in Barnes and Mortlake ward. I'd just like to thank you all for coming tonight, but would like to put on the record that holding this meeting in half-term has meant that an awful lot of the residents are unable to attend, and they're very disappointed about that. I'd be grateful if Councillor MacLeod could clarify exactly what the improvements are on South Walker Way. On many occasions, the residents have put forward video evidence of just how dangerous that run is, so I'm intrigued to know what actual changes have been put in place. And perhaps the councillors at the same time could give us an update on the latest on the Barnes Hospital site. Since their approval of outline planning permission in May 2019, when the community was told that this was an urgent requirement for housing and mental health facility, and a special educational needs school. We've now not had any further developments. In fact, this is rapidly turning into a derelict site, which is dangerous. Walls have come down, the roofs are coming down, trees have fallen down into that site. We had a housing application submitted in November 2021, which has actually not come to the council, so over 2 years that application has not been seen by council planners. And in May 2023, there was approval for the hospital and the school on the site, but we've had no further developments on when the site will actually be developed. And I would just note, just to put it into the wider context, that this school will have no outside area for the children to play in, apart from a small concrete patch, and I believe possibly a netball court or something that's going to be on the roof. So once again, overbuilding of site without due concern for the health and play facilities for children who have special educational needs. Thank you.
Okay, right, so we've got a few issues there. Should we start with a rat run on South Walk?
You asked Councillor MacLeod to answer the first bit.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for Julia to hear it. She leads on the traffic route.
We tend to split things up, and what you'll probably note, because you said you're a Mortlake resident, which I'll let Anton and Nikki deal with, but South Walpole Way predominantly is East Sheen. The bit you live on at the end, if you do, towards the Barnes Hospital development, that isn't East Sheen ward, but the majority of it is. We had a consultation, in fact we've had 2. Now what's been looked at is quite different from the traffic orders that are potentially going to come into North Walpole Way. And the reason for that is because obviously it's going to be a building site this year. There's going to be spoils taken away. There's going to be lots of lorries. And it was felt that if there was interventions at White Hart Lane, this couldn't happen, and they would potentially go down a quite residential road in East Sheen called Queen's Road, which really couldn't take that. So what was looked at was to keep it as it is with a few tiny interventions at the moment, put in a school street, which has happened along Vernon Road and Howgate Road, and the data gathered from that school street has shown that there's been a 3rd decrease in traffic and rat running along South Walpole Way. So while the hospital development is still pending and going to happen, then that will be kept open. But believe me, when that is complete, it will be looked at again.
Sorry, can you clarify what a school street is, other than a piece of cardboard that sits around a street light?
I can clarify what a school street is, which means basically there are restrictions at drop-off and pick-up time, which means that only people on a white list, for instance, people who live in the streets or are delivering to that street, can come down those streets. So really, if you wanted to go down Howgate and Vernon and end up on Sheen Lane, that has been cut off twice a day, which means that rat-running traffic is a little bit dissuaded from coming down there, and we've seen a 3rd decrease in traffic.
Can we take the second part of your question about Barnes Hospital?
Hi, you will probably know there was a street gathering where people voiced their views to councillors and to a representative from the MP. That was conveyed to the developers, which is basically the NHS and Education Department. And we have since had I certainly had about 4 meetings with them to go through the various issues that were discussed. And Nikki, I think, attended at least 2 of them. And the bottom line is that they are going to go ahead within the next week, I think. And they had hoped to do it in the middle of January. Things didn't happen. The arrangements which they told me about seem to be incredibly sort of helpful in that they will have staff outside. They will only have a requirement for lorries to dispatch or to come in when they know the road's clear, because they'll be monitoring it. And the people will not be dispatched from wherever to bring in stuff without them knowing there's going to be a clear way in and out. They'll be having staff outside to supervise what's happening on the road. If anyone's got an issue, there'll be a notice board with the contact details. And again, you can contact me There'll be quarterly meetings to discuss progress on the site. In respect of the children's playing fields, it is accepted that it would be ideal to have green fields to play on, but it's also recognised that in a London urban environments, that's not always going to be practical, and therefore the planners have to accept that what they are going to provide will be sufficient. There will be an area which will be surfaced so it's all-weather type pitch. The children can have use of that. We've been discussing with the developer next door to kind of have their little garden area available for the use of the school children and also the people who will be attending the medical centre.
Okay. Sorry.
I think you had one other point, I've forgotten what it is, sorry.
Maybe you can pick this up later.
But certainly, take on board that we might have come back to you as well, but it's not been forgotten what's been brought to our attention and the issues involved. Keeping you informed in a better manner.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we didn't do a very good job of sticking to community safety, so I'm going to try a little bit harder to keep our points focused on our subject area. The next section, which is high streets and local infrastructure.
All right.
Councillor Cambridge, over to you.
Okay, can I just say, just because I'm introducing the theme, the questions aren't for me, they're for everybody.
Yes, the comments, observations.
The comments and your thoughts are for everybody, not just for me. So, high street and local infrastructure. Now, I'm positive that we're all in agreement about what we'd like from our high streets. A variety of shops, businesses and services, places to eat and drink, both inside and out, fewer cars, along with pedestrianisation where we can. And isn't it good when that's all wrapped up in a green environment with pleasant places to sit and plenty of trees? The council have initiatives to support the local businesses and enhance public spaces. Key projects include the Sheen Lane Centre, where we're sitting at the moment, but the exterior, not the interior of the Sheen Lane Centre, Milestone Green and Castle Now Parade. These have all been helped through the Public Realm Improvement Fund, 160,000 for design of the first two I mentioned, and 279,000 for Castle Now. The Sheen Lane Centre consultation ended in December with data showing 89% support for the outline drawings. The scheme featured safe spaces, diverse seating, play elements, space for market stalls, entertainment space and imaginative planting. The next stage is to secure funding following the detailed design. Milestone Green is in the heart of East Sheen, and a public consultation is planned to run for 6 weeks, and the exciting news is that is starting in 2 days' time. The proposed scheme includes greener public space, inclusive seating, additional cycle parking, imaginative brick flooring and enhanced lighting. And last but not least, Castle Now Parade, and that is a community-driven public space improvement. The scheme is progressing after the consultation closed in January of this year. And so far, there has been 75% support for the Pocket Park. The final designs are coming and will take into account the concurrent CPZ scheme. Designs will be finalised based on the consultation findings. And finally, I just want to say that along with these investments, the health of the high street businesses is key. Local businesses benefit from the Economic Development Office, receiving grants for many things, including festive decorations. The High Street Officer actively engages with businesses, promoting initiatives such as the borough-wide Shop Local campaign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cambridge. Does anybody want to make a comment or observation about high streets and local infrastructure, please? Thank you. Have we got a mic? Gentleman here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, James Page, St Leonard's Road. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's a bit higher.
Is that better?
That's much better, thank you.
Okay, James Page, St Leonard's Road. I've seen the plans that you talked about first outside Sheen Centre here. They look good, but I'm just interested in what's the estimated cost of the works is going to be, because I was told a figure of 2 to 3 million. Is that really a good use of money?
would like to ask Councillor that, comment on that.
I can just say, James, that we did get emails with people raising why funds couldn't be used elsewhere. I wonder if that's potentially behind your question, and I do understand that. This is very specific money to help the growth and economy of the high street, to increase footfall. At the moment, we don't have those figures, but they will be publicly available. What the designers have done is go away, look at all your suggestions, see if they accord with the designs, and then do a really detailed plan. We are not talking about something in the millions, in nobody's estimation. Is that your concern? I mean, what's behind the question?
That's exactly my concern. I was given that figure by somebody in the council.
Okay, so clearly, yes?
Well, maybe just to help people, just to sort of have the perspective on it. The one in Castle Knoll, that's 297 or 279, the other way around, £1,000. So we're not talking millions. And the 279,000 is to complete the whole thing that we're doing there. So we're not talking millions, and we are able to access a very good specific pot of cash that we have successfully bid for as a borough, and then been able to split up across the borough.
So hopefully we'll have some clarity on those numbers soon anyway, as Councillor Cambridge said. Does anyone else have any observations on this subject? If not, we will see if we have any questions from home. Siobhan, sorry, I forgot last time.
To be quite frank, you know, I've been totally ignored all evening.
I
just don't know where to look anymore.
I forgot to ask.
Like I need it. Right, we have got a question from her.
Oh, okay.
Don't ask me what theme, because at the moment I'm trying to make the Wi-Fi work.
Okay.
Let me work out the theme. I do apologise, ladies and gents.
I'm High Street.
I'm High Street. I'm also community engagement. Apologise for my exuberance, but I've enjoyed the night so much so far. I'm very exuberant. Okay, the question is, and it's just come through because I've just sent out a reminder. Okay, here we go. Mortlake, the borough gains a strip of grass to the river. No community hub, library, museum, no secular civic police hubs, needs services. Why are we left without? That's all I've got on that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, you've got a round of applause for your question. Councillor Crookdeck's going to take that one.
It's anonymous, I'm afraid, so I've got no name.
Okay, that's fine.
I would like to answer this question, and we couldn't have led the discussion actually on High Street and local infrastructure, actually because, as the person has rightly said, we have had no capital investment in our community, either through the PRIF fund or through a lot of the other funds, grant funds that are there for some time. We have lobbied for some expert help, a planner or an architect perhaps, to advise us on what we can actually do in our ward. The stag is part of the ward, but things can't be delayed until that gets off the ground. That's just simply not practical or feasible. And I think, as you've heard from speakers, the surrounding wards, so East Sheen and Barnes, have all had this expert help, which unfortunately Anton and I don't have the skills. So hopefully, this will happen, and then we can put together the sorts of bids which will improve our environment as well, and our high streets and our local infrastructure. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. We have another question.
Hello, my name is Francine Bates. I'm chair of Mortlake Community Association, and I just want to endorse what Nikki has just said. I mean, for many, many years, it's felt like that Mortlake has been totally forgotten by the council, and we now have an opportunity to basically create a heart in Mortlake. Hopefully that will come about eventually when the decisions around the Stag Brewery are finally settled. But in the meantime, we can't be waiting for planners to opine, because it's already taken the best part of 11 years and it may take longer. So what I would urge all of you to do, particularly Gareth and also our councillors, to really look at ways that creatively we can bring the heart back to Mortlake. Because we do feel, as the questioner who sent the question online has already established, very, very left out. We have some opportunities, and we hope that you will consider that Mortlake is an equal part of Richmond Borough. We have some SIL money that's being discussed and looked at by all of you coming up soon. And in terms of Mortlake itself, what we really need is a community centre. We've got a fantastic facility provided by Mortlake Hall, but we lack resources to really develop it in the way we would like to. Many other parts of the borough have community centres. Mortlake doesn't have its own community centre, and we really urgently need one. So I would ask you to look at the resources that are available to you and really invest in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. We're coming on to talk about Stag in a minute, so I think there'll be some other issues around that, but it's certainly an exciting opportunity, I think, for Mortlake, being a resident as well. Councillor Hale wants to make a comment on that point.
I was just actually going to address one small bit of the question, which was to do with the police hub. But Councillor Patterson did actually write to the planning committee, even from his hospital bed, and he has successfully got a recommendation a mandate into that planning application, that one of the units would be for police to have. So there is going to be a police hub in that development.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I can, if you don't mind, as you've got my land, Francine, you mentioned by name. One of the problems that we have, particularly with the emerging stag proposals, is that the council could spend a fair old whack of cash setting in plans, plans for this, plans for that, plans for the other. And then, when the Mortlake scheme finally emerges, in whichever shape or form it finally emerges, then the amount of cash which the council has spent is slightly redundant. It no longer fits in with the broader scheme. So, and we would be quite rightly all over the coals if we were to spend maybe £250,000 on a scheme for Mortlake, which didn't fit in with the emerging plans. So it's not that we don't want to, we do want to, and Julia's already mentioned the additional money which is going to be spent on Mortlake Green, which I appreciate as well. Yeah, I don't like the idea of kids doing sports in that particular area. It's not, but when I was on the planning committee that sat on it, I turned it down for that very reason, and also the fact that the timber yards reversing in and out. But yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, we do want to. That's the thing. But it's just a case of at what point is the correct time to spend it, because it could also be that we might be able to get some freebies out of the developer as well.
Okay, so swiftly. We're going to move on to...
I mean, my door is always, if you want to come with proposals, genuine proposals about what could be done, then always happy to listen. Absolutely, as indeed is every single councillor around this table of any political persuasion, as indeed is any non-elected political representative, because the one thing as we approach elections, in my goodness, 2 years' time nearly now, is they're going to want to have something to sell to the public, something which is going to excite them about the positive vision of voting for them. So yeah, come to us with ideas, but that's what we really need. But at the same time, it has to be stuff which is going to fit in well with the emerging plans on the borough.
Gareth, I have come to you with ideas. I came to you in your leader's office and did ask for expert help to develop those ideas.
No, you didn't ask for expert. You didn't come with ideas. You just came with a wish list of consultants that we could use.
Well, I think there sounds like there's an exciting opportunity for all of us there to get some investment into Mortlake. I think Margie wants to say something.
Thank you.
Wants to say something.
I just want to say something really very quickly, because I know I can see from some of the stuff I read on Twitter and much like, there's always this misconception that Barnes is extremely wealthy and that Mortlake doesn't get anything and Barnes get everything. So just to put this right, the Castle Now Parade proof thing that we're about to do, the public realm improvement, is an area of North Barnes that has some of the highest poverty levels in the borough. which has the most school children on free school meals and just about the most social housing occupants. So that particular area of North Bands is up beside Hammersmith Bridge. We've already had, decimated by the closure of Hammersmith Bridge. So that's why we put in this particular bid for Castleknock Parade.
Yes, I think Mortlake's next on the list. Siobhan? Oh, have you got a question? I'm going to move on to Stag.
I'm Slido. So I'm not me.
No, that's what I mean. These are the people at home.
Okay, sorry, I know this is rather confusing, but what we've got is an online stream going on. And the reason I'm jumping around like a rabbit, which I do normally, is because we're trying to keep it going and keep the questions rolling. So excuse my over-exuberance.
Is this relevant to our theme?
It's absolutely relevant.
Good.
That's why I'm trying to get to it, okay?
Fabulous.
Whilst trying to manage other things.
You.
Okay.
Yes. Multitasking.
Right. Multi-mentaling. Okay. You'll like this, audience? Not a lot. What are the imaginary MH services? MH? Mortlake Hall? Mortlake Hall? Mortlake Hall? MH? Probably. Mortlake Hall services. Who provides for Mortlake? SWLSTG or Maudsley, the health authorities?
Is that mental health? Mental health.
Mental health.
service.
So, mental health services, sorry, not Mortlake Hall.
Well, do we want to deal with that now, or do we want to pick it up again later? Because we're talking
Maybe
about
staff, GPs, like medical provision and things like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Can we cover that? Is that okay?
Sorry,
Because it's kind of off subject.
Sorry.
Councillor McNulty Howard, are you going to do Stag for us so we can move on?
I'm looking at some of the people here. I think they know a lot more about it than I do.
Well, hopefully they'll be able to comment after you've done your introduction.
I think you're all aware that there was a recent planning committee meeting for the 4th application, and that was agreed by the committee. I now understand that the brewery have written a letter to the government and asked for them to take over the appeal process, which some people have been instigated to get the matter dealt with by the mayor. So we're waiting for the outcome of that. What I would say is that from the planning committee, they've sought to make a balance of the competing demands of the local residents and what planning law does or does not allow, and what the previous local plan could contain. I think a lot of people have found that a very difficult concept, juggling all these issues. The bottom line is you've got a brownfield site bought by a commercial developer who wants to put up accommodation. In order to do that, monies have been agreed for the use of the council. Some of that area has also been devoted for a school. On this occasion, it's resolved itself into a secondary school. From the planning committee's point of view, that is beneficial to future demands, and the fact that it's also a specialist school which will deal with specialist subject matters is advantageous above what other people have been trying to suggest from moving Thompson House. Within the development itself, the mayor has increased the housing limits in order to gain social housing, but because of the delays, the amount of money which the developer can claim as necessary to keep its profit margins have ended up with the social housing element being reduced. There will be some further monies. We can use that money hopefully somewhere else within the borough to do housing. In between times, the planning committee, within their restrictions, were convinced that on balance, there's a good amount of housing, it's fairly well developed, well designed, and will allow access to the towpath and the River Thames better than it has been in the past. And that the monies which are going to be made in addition, which I believe in the region of 30,000–40,000, will allow for some regeneration in the rest of the area. Additionally, they're trying to also provide something for the local community in terms of a cinema. I know that's a matter of dispute by some, but that's what's been resolved as the best use. And they've done things to try and make sure that the place is well developed and won't cause flooding issues. I think that's the summary of where the council is with the planning committee. I must stress that the planning committee works in a way, it's a regulatory body, so that the council can't make decisions which are not without recourse to a lot of statutory provision, past case law and government guidance lines. And can I just check, has everyone seen the application and the development documents?
I'm sure most people will have done.
Yeah, as you know, it's a huge amount and there's a lot of issues. And I'll leave it at that at the moment.
Okay, so observations, comments, thoughts from the audience. Anyone? Or is there stunned silence on Stag? Oh no, here we go. Do we have a mic, please? Do you mind telling us your name and I recognise you? Who's going to take this question?
It's Tim Cashwell, chair of the local civic society. I've been involved in this project for the last, it's nearly 10 years now, and it began with a planning brief put together by the council in 2011, an excellent brief, which simply said, we need a new development here, a new community hub, and we need a primary school. What happened, of course, is that back in the days of the Tories, the primary school was turned into a secondary school, and that's where the problems really began, because a secondary school with 1,250 pupils, including a sixth form, is a lot larger than a primary school with only 400, much smaller pupils. And for the past 10 years, I have also been showing parties of primary school children around one of our great heritage sites in the area, which is the air raid shelter at St. Leonard's Court. I showed primary school children around this place umpteen times. And over the last 10 years, I've noticed the primary school numbers dwindling. And they're now, and originally there were classes of 30 which had to be split between 15 and 15 because we only had 15 down in the area shelter at one point. But there are now classes of something like 17 or 18 coming, and they can almost just go down to the shelter in one go, so we don't have to split them anymore. It's almost down by half of what it was. So why are we still looking to build a secondary school on the site? There might have been a need for it 10 years ago, and indeed all that population bulge, that boom that took place between 2008 and 2012, it's in the secondary schools now. The secondary schools are under pressure, but the primary schools, some of them are in danger of closing, I believe. Well, maybe not in this part, but certainly London-wide. It's a big problem. Can we have your views on that?
Okay, thank you. Who would like to answer that one? Okay, so Councillor Crookdates will say something first, and then Gary, presumably you'll want to say something as well.
Thank you, Tim, for that. I absolutely agree with you. If you look at the ONS forecasts, in the next 5 years, the decline or the falling roles in the primary school are going to hit our secondary school population. So in the next 5 years, we're going to lose an additional 1,000 secondary school age children, and over the 10 years, 2,000 secondary school age children. So we're starting from a position where probably at best we have 2 to 3 classes that might need accommodating, so maybe 30 to 45 children, which can easily be accommodated within the existing estate. And yet we're opening a secondary school with sort of 180 per year, so it really doesn't make sense. Do you want me to deal with the medical issue as well, or should I come back to that?
Should we just finish off this point and come back to that? Let me move this over so we can hear you.
Thanks, Tim. We've been round the block of the provision of secondary schools in this part of the borough for ever such a long time, probably the 10 years we've been talking about. We have to look at this not just in a 10-year cycle. We have to look at this in longer term thinking. And our projections have been looked at by the Department of Education. They've been looked at again, and they've been looked at again. Now, the Department for Education isn't in the habit of shelling out dirty great big pots of cash for schools which aren't needed. In fact, they prefer not to. And that's why we're seeing schools closing down, because they're being required by the Department of Education because the money simply isn't there. Now, we've got 11 secondary schools in this borough. 8 of them are on the Twickenham side of the river. There are just 3 on the Richmond side of the river to provide services for all of the young people on this side of the river. Now, I've been to a few of the meetings every now and again. Sometimes I'll be on the panel, sometimes I'll sit at the back with the toughs. And I get people coming up to me, parents of young people, saying, please address the need for a school in this area. My child is having to get on the train or a bus and go to Whitton, Heathfield, Hampton, in order to find a secondary school place within this borough. So this isn't something that we're doing lightly. It's not something we're doing, just because it's there and we'll take it, thank you very much. It's because we've got a projected need, which has been looked at by independent experts. When it was looked at by the Mayor of London, when he did his call-in of the scheme the last time around, he accepted the need for the school, he accepted all of the arguments, but he turned it down on the housing. He didn't turn it down on the school or the school need. So it's been looked at. It's been looked at time and time and time again. I've had the residents groups come in and they've shown me their figures and they've been looked at by the officers. Unfortunately, much as you might not like it, there is a need for a secondary school on this side of the river. 8 on one side, 3 on the other. We will be failing in our duty to make sure that there is adequate secondary provision for young people in this borough if we don't take this opportunity now. And it may be that in the short term, there is adequate provision, and I stress adequate, not good. You're not going to have the choice which other families have on the Twickenham side. You're going to have a situation where it's, you will go to this school, you can't have the choice which Twickenham families have got, you will have that school and like it. And that's not good enough in my view. We should be thinking better for our children.
Thank you. I'll take you, Mayor. Julia, a few words. Sorry, let me move the mic over your way.
Tim, I've been to many presentations and I've heard the arguments, most definitely. I want to pay tribute to Thompson House. It's in our ward. It is a wonderful school with 2 sites. Obviously, we've got the Vernon Road as well. But I am very firmly backing the secondary school. I hope that in those years to come, when you're a bit older and I'm a bit older, and it is a successful school and full, we will look back and wonder why there has been 10 years of opposition to a school. But I do understand that there are concerns. One thing I will say is this academy is going to focus on tech. And I know as a mother of a girl that the amount of women and girls we would like in STEM subjects and taking on science is not to be taken lightly. This was brought home to me a few days ago when my daughter, who's 24 and in digital, which this academy is going to specialise in, said that she felt that AI and other forms of digital was something that she wasn't even coming up with and keeping up with. And she's only left school education 6 years ago. So I do believe the specialist knowledge that's going to be imparted by this academy is needed, and I think it's going to be the envy of many. But I know it's a difficult subject. We do have a really robust school-paced planning strategy. It's a public document. It's available online. Please do go and look at it and study it, because I think it does show that there is going to be a need for secondary school provision.
Councillor Sachs, I think I should say a couple of words as well, and then I can see we've got a couple of more questions, but we are running a bit short of time, so I'll take a decision in a second.
I'll be extremely quick. I just want to give a shout out from some of the poorest residents in the borough in Castleknock estate. Every time I walk round that estate, they beg me for a secondary school in the borough that their children can go to. So there is a genuine need.
Okay, can you be really brief? We need to move on to our meaty issue, which is traffic and transport next, and we are running out of time, so it depends on which is meatier. Sorry? Yes, we're coming into a general Q&A session after that, so we can pick up some of these things a bit later on, but do you mind if I take the gentleman here who hasn't asked a question yet? Is that okay? Who was it had the hand up? Yeah. Jeff, apparently. Hello, Jeff.
Yes, my name is Jeff Woodhouse. I have followed this school matter for quite some time. I didn't come specifically prepared for this evening, and I will be brief. I have read all of the school place planning strategy documents that have been produced since 2018, and they are completely full of dubious statistics. We have heard the DFE described as independent. They are not. They have as much of skin in the game as anyone else. They have already approved the free school project for when it was for Tower Hamlets, and now it's in Richmond, and they don't have any interest in looking at that matter seriously anymore. It's a ticked box as far as the DFE are concerned. You should pay more attention to the ONS predictions, which have not been included within these projections in these documents. And that's as far as I'm prepared to go.
Okay, I wonder if we're going to make much more progress on this one. Sorry? Oh. Can you keep it really, really brief? Because then we're going to move straight into...
Yeah, no, it is brief actually. It's a sort of a little bit of a moot point. I'm a board chair of a secondary school in North Kingston. We're right, the primary roles are falling. But actually this part of London, the secondary demand is high. Why? Because we have 30,000 new units that are being built in Brentford right now. We have 450 that are planned for Manor Road. We have the ones on Barnes Hospital, and then we have the Stag site. We're about to increase the population in this area by around about 40, 50, 60%. You probably know the statistics on that, which comes to the question of how are you going to move everybody around?
Wow, fabulous. Perfect. So, it was a great segue. Councillor Millen.
Well, thank you very much. I think I drew the short straw there.
I'm not sure we're going to answer that question in a nutshell, but we'll do our best.
In this brief introduction, I've just made a point of things that we have achieved in the borough and things that in these three wards. As a Barnes resident, there's no other place for me to start than with Hammersmith Bridge. But I'm not going to discuss it as the bridge. I'm going to tell you what we've been doing in Barnes. This may not mean much to many of you. I don't think we've got many Barnes people here tonight. But I'm sure you're all aware the carriageway's been opened.
Mike, Margie, it's hard we can't hear you. You need to move a bit closer, like an ice cream, as I keep telling everyone.
I'm sure that you're aware that the carriageway opened only this morning to cyclists, which is an improvement of something. We got lots of complaints about there's always some sort of trauma between cyclists and pedestrians. So I live quite near the bridge, and I could see a flurry of news reporters and cameras there, so I expect you'll see a lot on the news tonight. Anyway, residents have asked, and we're about to deliver tighter parking restrictions around Hammersmith Bridge. It has quite clearly been used by commuters to park their cars there all day, and sometimes it's even used whilst people are on holiday. Residents have stated that the traffic and parking issues seem to be steadily increasing, and they're welcoming an extension to controlled parking time, and they're expecting an implementation of that in May. And similarly, we had a problem that occurred around Barnes Station, which is in the NBC ward, and parking restrictions have now been introduced with a 6-month review of the pay-by-phone parking scheme, which will commence in June this year. And further improvements by Network Rail, who are working on site on an Access for All scheme, including lifts to all platforms, is due for completion around spring and summer this year again. We have asked officers to investigate putting a pedestrian crossing on Station Road Barnes in the vicinity of the Barnes Farmers Market, and they are analysing the feasibility of doing this. One of the unintended consequences of the closure of Hammersmith Bridge was the instant emergency relocation of bus routes around Barnes. And there's one road in particular that's been blighted by something like 700 buses daily, that's Houseman Road. So we've been speaking to TfL and the bus companies, asking them to look strategically at all the bus routes in Barnes and to come up with a proposal to improve the life of these residents. Also in Lonsdale Road, there's an ongoing consultation of a project brought to us by TfL. It's gone through a consultation, but they are going to replace a section of the Hail and Ride bus stops. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with those. There's a section of road where you can basically just ask the bus to stop anywhere and get on and off. The residents have been somewhat divided on it, but on balance we feel the benefit for less mobile passengers who need higher and built-out curbs outweighs the inconvenience caused to others. North Warpleway and South Warpleway have already been mentioned tonight, and all I can just add to that is that North Warpleway is coming to Transport Committee on the 27th of February, and as a result of that, South Warpleway is currently paused while the decision is made on the Barnes Hospital site, just as Councillor Cambridge mentioned earlier. Coming a bit closer to home, Sheen Lane near Tesco. Council are looking at a virtual loading bay outside there. It's a trial to improve servicing facilities. As much as I understand it, it allows delivery drivers to book a space in advance to help with congestion around there. And then you've also mentioned school streets, and Thompson House obviously is one of those. Again, it was alluded to earlier, but the figures are that on average during the morning and afternoon there's 106 fewer cars per day, and the adjacent roads there's 181 fewer cars per day. Interestingly, before it was introduced there was only a 54% support for this initiative, but since it's been in place there's now 70% in support of it, so I think we could say that that's been successful. Transport Committee will consider whether or not to make it permanent. That's coming up shortly as well. And there may need to be enforcement and changes made around there, and that will all be looked at the time. How's my timing?
You'll need to wrap it up.
Very, very quickly, really happy to report increased funding for the highway maintenance programme. We're investing more than anyone before in the maintenance of the carriageway and work from a rolling highway maintenance programme. How can I make this quicker? I'll just give you some streets that are going to be resurfaced shortly. Queen's Ride, Beverley Path, Elmback Gardens and Mortlake, Sheengate Gardens, Palmerston Road, Park Drive, Dean Hill Road and East Sheen. Nothing much more I was going to speak about. EV chargers and bike hangers, but sadly I've been curtailed.
Well, hopefully these subjects will come up with our audience. Thank you, Councillor Millam. Okay, so this is a meaty subject. I know you're going to have lots of things to say, perhaps. Who would like to make the first point? Una.
Okay. Look, we are a lot of Mortlake people here tonight, so I just wanted to, and we all go through Barnes, so to Councillor Millam, yes, we benefit from what you're doing in Barnes, but look, fabulous new lift going into that station. I know that's not your responsibility, but it's happening. And that amazing control parking that's going around Barnes Station. Come to Mortlake. What is the control parking around Mortlake Station 9 till 11 in the morning? On Alder Road, 4 years ago, we put forward a petition to ask for increased hours on control parking. We just do not get listened to. I don't understand. Maybe it's we're a small number of people. It's deeply frustrating. So I hate to go on about my own road, but I sort of feel it's illustrative. Interestingly, if you go to Richmond Station, the railway station, you come out there and there's a lovely stand that's got all the Visit Richmond, and it's great, it's got maps, it's got everything. But if you go there and say, can you tell me something about Mortlake? They don't even have any information, they don't know anything about it, and it's one of the most historic areas of this borough. The story of the river, the story of Cromwell and so on. I think the whole thing just captures the frustration that we have, that we just don't feel attended to. So then we come to transport. Because the issue really fundamentally has never been about the development of Stag Brewery, which we all support. And actually we get it about the school. It's the density, the combination and the impact on the ability to move where there is literally one road. That is what we're talking about. And if you have a school that can only really be filled by people coming from elsewhere, big distances, Hammersmith, wherever, that's just going to, the traffic, it's unimaginable what is going to happen where that road is already highly congested and there's parking and everything. And that, I think everybody will agree, is what our issue is.
Yeah.
So when we say we want it looked at, we mean it.
Okay, we hear you.
We're not making it up. We mean it.
No, absolutely. And we've all sat in that that traffic, I'm sure, for many, many hours. Sorry?
Relevant question.
You've got a relevant question. Can I just take some comments on that first, and then I will do my best to remember to come back to you. I know Councillor Miller wants to say something, but I'm going to take, if I may, from this ward first and then come back to you. Is that okay?
Thank you, yes, and I absolutely echo everything you've said. That is why, obviously, a lot of people in this room, I suspect, signed that transport petition that we set up last July. That was over 1,400 people, so it wasn't just ward specific, but we really do need a proper transport strategy, and it has to look at the cumulative impact of all the development in the area, and I think that is what we're missing.
Transport strategy, Councillor Millen.
Very, very briefly, the initiatives that I mentioned earlier all came from residents. We don't make these decisions on our own. Councillors, residents come to us with complaints or with concerns, and everything that I mentioned earlier has come from residents to us. So we do listen to residents. I'm sure we're about to hear about the community infrastructure levy that we're expecting from the development when it goes ahead. But a key part of this is that when we know that what we get from that is that the residents are involved in the decision making around it. It's a key fundamental part that we listen to you and we take you on board what your concerns are. We do have plans to engage across the borough, particularly in East Sheen, Barnes and Mortlake, and we will have a strategy to look at the whole overload of traffic in this particular area. And again, we can't really do anything until we know what's happening and the money that we get from the community infrastructure levy from the development. I'm sure Councillor Roberts has got more to add to that.
Sorry, it's me again. It's really not supposed to be my evening, it's supposed to be the ward councillors. But I'm here. But there we are. Did you get a response back at all from your petition? No. Okay. Do you still have it? Okay, I'll raise it, I'll find out what's happening with it. Okay, you should, I mean, sometimes people will do a petition and say, can we have this? And sometimes the answer, frankly, no, can't happen. However, you should at least get a response, and I'll see if I can chase that up. Never heard anything. That's not good enough. You should get an answer. Even if it's no, you should get an answer. On the independent traffic survey, again, it would be starting off spending a load of taxpayers' cash on something which we don't have the full picture on at the moment. I mean, take, for example, the rail services going through Mortlake. Yes, major new developments are going to have a big impact on the number of people travelling from Mortlake. However, the real knock-on is going to be further down the line, because at the moment you get on the train at Mortlake, you go, say, about 7:30 in the morning, and you usually be able to get on, get yourself a seat, get yourself down. And then when you get maybe as far as Putney or a bit further down the line, Vauxhall, oh my goodness, the idea of actually being able to get on the train at all, that's where the real cumulative impact is.
Gareth, trains run 2 ways. You've got to be able to get on.
Yes, but very few people are coming in from London going the other way around. I know they go both ways on the Loop line. Apart from, I mean, all I would say is come to Hampton in the mornings. We get 2 trains an hour. It's gorgeous. But it is, at the moment, we don't have the full picture of precisely what's happening. We don't know what's going to be happening with Stag, and to bring in external consultants would just be spending money for the sake of spending money. So we will be doing it. We are using our own internal teams to look at these matters. But, well, we are looking at it now. That's the thing. But external, I know, but we are looking at it now.
And nothing's being done. We keep raising the issues we've got.
Hang, come on. Just one thing which I would say is that if nothing was being done now, then why would there have been a consultation and something coming to the Transport Committee in 2 weeks' time, if nothing's being done now? It is being done now. Well, the papers, when they're published, they're not online yet because I think it's 10 working days. I think they should be going live tomorrow or Thursday. But stuff is being done now, but we want to do more.
Okay. We'll come back to you in just 1 second. Siobhan, she's waving frantically from the corner.
After 35 years of being on this planet, I finally noticed from my dear colleague that if I walk that way, I will walk in front of the live stream. It's only taken me the whole hour to realise that, so I'm going to stand behind the camera so that I don't block the view from home. But my dear colleagues at home, our dear residents at home, have come up with very relevant to what you're speaking. That's why I wanted to bring it in, okay? Sorry, I'm just about getting my head around Slido now. Okay, the question is to the councillors, all of you, particularly Mortlake, will Mortlake Station get the access for all schemes that Barnes has had?
Yeah, I think what they're talking about there is step-free access, and we absolutely 100% need it, because as everyone who lives in this area knows, the level crossings are down for around 48 minutes per hour. We obviously have lots of school children that we've been talking about trying to gather at the crossings to move back into Mortlake Green. We have buggies, we have cyclists. So we absolutely need step-free access. That was one of the things that we asked for as part of sort of an improvement in community facilities. And of course it's not included at all in the stag plan so far as I know. But yes, we will get back boxes on Mortlake Green. So that I think is what is in the Mortlake Green improvements.
Councillor
Can I just respond to 2 particular issues? The latter one there, I've actually spoken with Alex Ehrman about improvements in the Mortlake Station area, particularly after I had a presentation from one of Tim's friends up in East Sheen one day. And there is sympathy for trying to do a great deal within the what was termed the gateway to Mortlake at the Mortlake Station, and we will try and take that forward. I'm very aware improvements need to be made. In terms of getting the actual lift at the railway, obviously you're on railway land and we have to negotiate with them. I'm hoping that they will be progressing along the line, doing the improvements that they've done. So I can't say any timeline at this point, but I take on board that people are interested in that and I can take that forward with my colleagues. In respect of the mention of we've got a great historic area. I've actually managed to get the tourist manager from the council to wander around the ward after we had a meeting at the filmmaking company that's at the Mortlake Brewery at the moment. Regrettably, she had high heels, so she's got very short ankles. But we literally went from Joker's Corner, Lower Richmond Road, and I punched it through right up to White Hart Lane. So she is aware that there's a lot of good stuff going on, and she'll be trying to incorporate getting more visitors to come this way and also doing more. I've also had a brief contact with the Mortlake Historical Society, and I'm going to be trying to link them up so that more effort is given into promoting Mortlake as an interesting area with large amounts of historical background.
Okay.
Can you remind me, Emma, have we gone into open questions yet?
No, we're still dealing with travel and
my
transport.
fine colleague has said
we're
that
going
this
to
is an
stop.
open question, so I'll leave it to open questions.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Sorry.
Is it a burning question related to travel and transport, or can we deal with it in our next Q&A session?
Just very quickly, my name is Amin Abdallah. Most of our discussions today have been on residents and residential issues. What about retailers on the Upper Richmond Road West? What about the A205? We seem to have been completely neglected by the arrival of TfL's strength in not supporting retailers. You know, I'm a retailer in SW14 on the Upper Richmond Road, and we are struggling. We have struggled for decades by the increase in traffic, by the removal of parking facilities for customers. And that, I think, has to be addressed, and an important issue for the council to address.
Yes, we hear you. We hear you. Who would like to answer that comment?
Are you in East Sheen?
East, yes, Upper Richmond Road. Yeah, west.
We're here today, and we're meant to be here today in listening mode. And I guess we'd like to know, what is it you'd like to see? TfL have obviously gone out to consult on improvements to the Upper Richmond Road West. That's meant to be starting at the end of the year, but is there something more? Was there something in that consultation you're not happy with? Is there something more we
I think I'm not the only one. Around where I am, opposite Pizza Express, on the Mortlake side, not the Richmond side, the footpath has been reduced by about 10 feet to accommodate a bus stop and a loading bay. That, had they thought carefully, could have moved further on where the pavement is significantly wider and the retail area is significantly less. Instead, they have blocked our retail space. And therefore, customers and pedestrians have to now walk a much narrower area, especially at peak times when school children are there from the various schools that stop at that bus stop. But not only that, TfL have taken it upon themselves to enlarge the bus shelter. As you know, they've got advertising, but they've had to apply for planning permission. And recently, they've taken away the clear glass and put dense glass there. So walkers on the other side of the road around Pizza Express cannot see the retailers on the opposite side. So retailers like myself have to struggle to be known. So that's just one little example, but it's repeated all over the country. You should look into that. The reason I ask is that planning permission was required by TfL to put an advertising boarded bus stop. They have since changed the bus stop. I have not seen a request for a change of planning application.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you very much for that. I mean, it'd be great to have a chat with you in more detail if you've got a bit of time after this meeting.
Yeah, it's obviously an issue that's affecting other businesses in that stretch as well. So yes, I think that would be a good idea.
We can come down and take pictures but to be specific about what you could, as I'm trying to visualize this there, it needs to be a little bit more specific exactly what you're talking about, and we can come by and do that and check that out and find out about the permissions. Yeah.
That is the whole. We understand.
We'll start
we
with
understand
you
what you're
and
saying.
then
So yeah, there's obviously a number of businesses that are affected.
Thank you.
I would also say, with Zoe and Margaret, we'd love to talk to you afterwards, because that's the sort of thing as councillors we can take on for you. Obviously, the Shop Local campaign is really important to the council and to us, and so promotion of local businesses is vital.
Okay, thank you everybody. We have just naturally segued into our open Q&A section, I think. So for the rest of the evening, which is about half an hour or so, you've got the opportunity to raise any other issues that you might want to raise, or make any observations, ask any questions of our councillor team. I can see Siobhan waving from the corner again.
I'm very attention seeking.
Do you want to start with your question from the audience at
Does
home?
anybody mind if I start with one from home?
No, go ahead.
I've had it cooking for about half an hour and I've finally realised this is the right time for it. Okay, you'll appreciate this is about Thompson House. Is that the right name for that school? Thompson House. I only have to check myself because I'm Ealing and I mix. Oh, sorry. I did do drama at St Mary's University, but in those days they didn't have the internet and they also didn't have technology. And I won't walk in front of the camera and I'll try my very best to answer this question without further ado. I do apologise profusely. I'm too old and I should be put to rest. Okay, the question is, put glasses on so I can read the question. Will the Thompson House, Dorima, is that correct? Thompson House. Will the Thompson House, I did Turkish then, sorry. Will the Thompson House School Street be extended to cover the whole of Vernon Road to prevent rat runners avoiding traffic on the A206 or 206 and parents at Thompson House dropping off on our street? She doesn't say what street she's in and it's anonymous.
This is East Sheen.
Yeah, can I just say, did you say Berwyn Road? Because that would be Vernon Road. It does cover Vernon Road, but I think potentially that. Sorry, this is very odd to hold that. I think potentially because that road is kind of split in two, and the people at the. What are you laughing at? What have I done? I think the people at the far end, at the cul-de-sac end, would like the school street to go further. That is definitely something that can be looked at. It was a trial, it finished in November, so we would support that most definitely.
Excellent. Okay, brilliant. Right. Anyone like to ask a question, make an observation, pick up on the things that have been discussed already? Gentleman in green, thank you.
My name's Graham Finch. I could have spent the whole evening talking about the Mortlake Brewery scheme, but I'd like to ask another question first about the traffic improvements on the Upper Richmond Road. Does it include a box junction at Milestone Green? Because there used to be one there for years. They resurfaced the road and took it away. I then took it up with Transport for London on at least 3 occasions, and each time I was told my bid had been unsuccessful. The reason I think it's necessary is because the traffic is very heavy in both directions. You've got green man crossings there. You've got cars in a line of traffic coming up to the traffic lights. They go through on green in a traffic jam. By the time they get to the next set of traffic lights, where the green man has come on, they're still moving. Pedestrians are trying to cross the road in all the roads there, and they're having to weave around moving cars. And particularly when cars are turning right into Sheen Lane, again, the green man comes on, the cars haven't been able to turn right because of oncoming traffic on the other lane. They then seize their opportunity, and again, they're turning into pedestrians crossing the road at that point.
Graham, I wonder if we can have not taking up this forum too much, but we can have a chat afterwards, because what you're raising, we've heard over and over again. The box junction's been rejected by TfL. They said actually that's going to cause more problems than it's going to solve. They are going to widen the pavement, they're going to change the sequencing on the lights, they're going to bring in filter lanes. It's all in their consultation, and the work to improve the safety is going to start. So perhaps we could talk afterwards.
This lady at the front here in the check jacket. Remember to say your name, please, and which ward you're in. Thank you.
Liz Evans and East Sheen ward. Can you broaden that conversation, please, to look at the overall safety of all the crossings on the Upper Richmond Road? The traffic lights, the pedestrian lights along where the Hare and Hounds often doesn't work. Pedestrians therefore jaywalk across the traffic. It's very dangerous. It's dangerous at all the crossings at Sheen Lane. The zebra crossings are often ignored. So there's a need for a wholesale piece of work, because otherwise the community is going to get separated by that road.
I'm not going to talk too much about it, but We can talk afterwards, but your observation is spot on. And I think what is in this TfL consultation and the outcomes of it show that people want those pedestrian crossings very much elevated, particularly the one at the end of Gilpin, Kings and Queens Road. It is now going to be a raised crossing. There's going to be several kind of adjustments, but I don't want to take this forum up. But you are raising a very, very key point. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, good. We've got lots of observations. This lady in brown over here on the right, thank you. Wait for the mic if you don't mind. Thank you. Yes, name please and ward.
Valerie Chevalier, East Sheen. Just carrying on from the previous things, is when you go along to further along to Priory Lane, there's a green filter to turn right into Priory Lane, but it lasts for about 2 seconds, so nothing can turn, and that creates a great backlog of traffic right all the way back to Sheen Lane and further.
Is that our? No, it's not. It's not our borough. Is that across the boundaries?
Oh my God! Is it in
Sorry,
Wandsworth? It's
we
gone
can't
into
answer that
Wandsworth.
question.
Have we gone to Wandsworth?
We need to go to their community conversation. Raise that question with them. Sorry.
But we get your point.
Yeah, but it is a good point. It's a good point. We all agree with you. Right, who's next? There were a couple of other hands up. Yes, the lady. Yes.
Hi, Alex Chung, Mortlake resident. Taking us back to the Stagbury, our favourite subject here. Councillor Patterson mentioned 38 million coming to the council, I assume. And of that, how much is actually coming to the area of Mortlake?
We touched on numbers, didn't we, earlier? I don't know if we know yet, do we?
I don't think that the final numbers are known. There are two types of sill. There's sort of strategic borough-wide sill, which will be spent around the area, but not necessarily Mortlake itself. It's 38 million in Mortlake, my goodness. But there is also NSIL, which is more of a localised pot. So it's going to be split up in spots, but there will be a cash boost for Mortlake. You can bet your bookie on that.
Can I just add to that? Yes, thank you. So you're right. Yes, currently into the coffers at Richmond, they're planning or estimated to get about £40 million. The way we could have more locally, actually, and we could in fact invest more in affordable housing, is if we created what's called a neighbourhood plan for Mortlake, which is what we've been asking for. If we had a neighbourhood plan, then we could actually invest £10 million of that 40 million in more affordable housing on the Stag site. So that would be providing housing for people who live in Mortlake rather than building those houses elsewhere in the borough. And I think that is something that we really do need to explore, if possible, in more detail.
Just a very quick forward, sorry. It's an attractive scheme on paper, but be careful what you wish for. There has been a community or neighbourhood plan set up for Ham, and whilst it's true that a lot of the money which is generated by development in Ham stays in Ham, which is fine, nothing from any other development anywhere else in the borough. You only get what you get from here. That's the trade-off. So there could be Manor Circus, for example. You might be thinking, oh well, I'd like to have a nice big chunk of that in Mortlake. You won't get a penny. You might be thinking the same about residential developments in Kew. Again, you won't get a penny. That's the trade-off of going down the neighbourhood forum plan of saying, yes, let's keep the big chunk of cash from developments developed here in Mortlake. But other than that is all you will ever get, just Mortlake money, nothing else.
Yeah, we are. This is also this is by far and away the biggest development in Richmond, and obviously one of the biggest in London. So it's very unlikely that you're going to get anything more than £10 million from any other development.
But look, hang on a minute. Are you really saying, Gareth, that the money that's going to come from the SIL is going to come to other parts of? I mean,
No,
other parts of the borough, and only a small bit will come to Mortlake,
No, I
because
didn't say
we're
that
going
at
to
all.
take the whole burden of
no,
this. So can you
that's-
just be clear, so I
that's
don't
not-
want
no.
any confusion?
No, that's not what I said at all. I said that there would be strategic money which would be spent within the borough, but there would be a good whack of cash coming to Mortlake. How much at the moment, we don't know.
What proportion?
I couldn't tell you, and I'm not going to pluck figures out of the air because that would
Why
be...
did you give the example of Ham? Because you're
No,
sort of
well,
warning us of
I'm
something.
giving the example of Ham because that's where they've got this system already in place. And there are residents within Ham who tell me, I wish I hadn't done that.
Can I'll clarify the
both sides.
I can clarify the numbers for you. Without a neighbourhood plan, £6 million of the £40 million, so that's 15%, comes into the neighbourhood. The neighbourhood is currently defined, this is without a neighbourhood plan, to include East Sheen, Barnes and Mortlake. So that's 6 million into that broader, wider area. If we had a neighbourhood plan, then we could have £10 million of that money, so an extra £4 million coming into that area. And the very special thing about neighbourhood CIL is that you can spend it on affordable housing, whereas all the other CIL, you cannot.
Okay. Siobhan, is this a question from the audience?
Very relevant to what...
Okay.
Sorry, does anybody mind if I do it? Sorry.
Sorry, we'll come straight to... Which leg?
It is really relevant, I promise you.
Okay, I'll come straight to you.
We can't actually get this mic around quick enough. Okay, I'll be very quick. Shut up, Sean, basically. Okay, this is very relevant to what we've just been talking about. What is being done to develop more temporary accommodation for homeless people within the borough, or within Mortlake, as the case may be, don't really have an issue, so that they don't have to be sent to other boroughs?
Okay, temporary accommodation for homeless people. Who wants to take that? Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? Andy.
Well, we do.
Margaret.
Yes, I'm sorry. We do have accommodations like like last week I was working with some people for Street Link and whatnot, trying to get them moving into temporary accommodations. We do. We are also as a borough becoming. It's been proved that we become a social housing provider, which would also move that into that. So there are a couple of different things that are going on at the moment that are going in, because we do recognize the need for that. We do have homeless providers that are in place, and we're also, as council, starting to look at temporary housing, because it's very important, especially for the people who aren't able. So, you know, moving from going into Street Link and then into temporary housing and then into hopefully permanent housing is really what the whole point is on that.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add something quickly, and then we'll take questions from the back?
Yeah, I'll just add in. We have been investing quite heavily. We allowed ourselves to now buy on the open market, for example. So we've got a specific lot of grants that we applied for and we secured, which has enabled us to buy 30 houses on the open market towards this. And the point that was mentioned about the social housing thing, this is committing to becoming a registered provider, and doing that now allows us to access funding that we can't currently apply for temporary accommodation. So we will be able to now apply to the GLA for a specific funding pot that's currently not accessible because we're currently not a registered provider. We are able to access other funds, but at the moment what we have to do is go via housing partners and go through quite a rigmarole of negotiating with them about what happens with that money. By becoming a registered provider ourselves, we will have that negotiation taken out of it, and we will be able to decide what we're doing with the money, and we'll also therefore be able to get a specific pot that we can't currently get. So we are trying to diversify and find ways of increasing our provision. We have quite a lot. There's more we're going to try and do, but by getting this provider status, that will help us get closer to it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the lady at the back, and then we're coming over to someone on the right-hand side who was waving an arm, hasn't spoken yet. The gentleman at the back. your name and which ward you're in.
Sorry, Sue Weaver. Just to say, getting back to the ASB business, the antisocial behaviour, which covers a multitude of sins, just to say that the third of the big police community engagement meetings is to be held at the Barnes Wetlands Centre on the 19th of March, and the subject is antisocial behaviour. You'll get proper responses to your safety questions than perhaps you get from two of our senior councillors, who prefer to answer a lot of questions and problems that we have with a particular brand of sarcasm. Sorry, but that is one thing I'd like to say. The other one is that the council commissioned, now I'm sorry, you might have mentioned this already and I didn't hear the reply, but at a cost of about £50,000, a street survey, an outside company were brought in to how to make the streets and the shops and so on and so forth in Richmond better. And I don't think I've seen any sort of a published result of all that.
Yeah. I think there has been.
It's on the council website. If you're talking about the Richmond Town Centre work, we made that. Yes, it's on the council website at the moment, and it's fully there. Everything is there for people to have a good look at it. It's a very good report, actually.
I think it was only published recently. So
it's not, it's sort of blinking you'll miss it. But it's up there on the council website, and we want people to go and have a look and find out what the data is. I mean, one of the things which I think has grabbed the most headlines on that particular report is that the number of people who drive into Richmond Town Centre, of all of the people who are going in, 9%. 9% of people who drive in, which seems really counterintuitive. But it's those sorts of reports, those sorts of pieces of work which really make a difference. And I'm afraid the lady's gone. Help us to answer the question of how are we all going to get around? Because it's only with the data that we can really inform those decisions.
Yes.
We're also really delighted, actually, that the Met are having a community conversation in the wetlands in Barnes, and I would encourage everybody to come. We have many conversations with Inspector McLaughlin and the Borough Command about doing things at the east of the borough, so please take advantage and please come. Thank you.
Excellent.
If I could say something here. Also, there's a variety of ways of working with the antisocial behavior, because there's actually different varieties of antisocial behavior. There's just people who put music up too loud. There are people who congregate in Richmond, on Richmond Green, which is a whole different kind of antisocial behavior. There's people who steal that make noise. There's all kinds of different ways. And when we work with the safe neighborhood teams, it's, in East Sheen, the crime figures are going down and that kind of thing. But there's a different way of handling, say, residential antisocial behavior or public antisocial behavior, or all of those things. They're all, have to be handled in a particular way. And I've found that within this ward, and the ward that we work in, and in this borough, in this particular area of town, we're all very aware of that, and it is being addressed for its particular type of antisocial behavior as we go through. It's really important too. This is something that I, especially residential and public kind of antisocial behaviors, it's really important for us to address that, because I think everyone thinks this is like, a place where nothing like that ever happens, whether it be on, British transport, with the British Transport Police have to get involved. They don't think it happens here, but it does. And that for me is a very important issue as far as getting that sorted in its variety of ways.
Thank you. Okay.
Just while we're on this issue of crime and policing, I just wanted to raise awareness that the Police Liaison Group has launched a WhatsApp group, and you should be getting comments through your door in the next few weeks and months, which will have the QR code on it if you've not already got that. So that's about push communication. So rather than relying on social media, which isn't always accurate, you'll get information directly from the police.
Yes, we should all sign up to the WhatsApp group if you haven't already. Okay, I'm going to take a question from the gentleman at the back who's had his arm up for a while in the black coat.
Thank you. Good evening, Simon Douglas, East Sheen. Read in the paper today that Hampstead Bridge has been hit again by a boat, and so it's going to be, they are commenting, and maybe speculation, it's going to be closed till the end of the decade. So now we have a speculative timeline that we're not going to get open anytime soon. We know that Upper Richmond Road, South Circular is going to see increased traffic. With all the work that's going on at Barnes Hospital, Stag, that's also going to increase impact. We know from recent experience with that roadworks in Manor Road that caused complete carnage. I've got an 11-month-old baby. Particulates are only going to increase. We're reading reports in the Evening Standard papers about other boroughs in London commenting about the unknown particulates that hadn't previously been picked up. So one could argue that the South Circular, Upper Richmond Road, is only seeing more of that. And so now we know we've got to probably, maybe optimistically, 6 years of waiting for the bridge to be reopened. You guys are in a difficult position to be in the front line of, like, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with the health of our children? We've got Thompson House, we've got East Sheen Primary, playing right next to the school. I walk down that road every day. I grew up in this, I was born around here. I've been going down the road all my life. It's ridiculous where it is now. I imagine not many people can like what I'm going to say, but the least worst option is unlocking the gates of Richmond Park, because that is the only thing that we actually have vague control on. I know Appreciate Council doesn't, because it's Royal Parks, but everything else is beyond your control. You can't click your fingers and get the bridge reopened. You can't stop Stag, you can't stop at Barnes Hospital, but you're forcing a lot of people, traffic, down Richmond Park. My mother's disabled, she can't go to Virginia, Isabella Gardens Plantations anymore. She can't get over there because she's not going to spend an hour and a half in a car going all around the park. There are upsides to people who've need car access into the park. I appreciate I'm talking about a lot of things. I didn't want to throw in the Richmond Park reopening thing, but you did ask for solutions in the conversation.
Well, there are a lot of issues there, but I'm sure we all appreciate all the comments you've made, because I mean, as residents, we're all living through it. Councillor Cambridge, I think, wanted to say a few words first, and then if anyone else wants to come in.
I didn't catch your name, but I just wanted to ask, and I can totally see what you're talking about. We hear it a lot, and we live through it. As far as Hammersmith Bridge goes, do you want that open to vehicles? Do you think that would alleviate the South Circular?
Closing Hammersmith Bridge appeals to a very vocal minority, but where
London is a growing, evolving city. It needs its major arteries open. And we've seen major comments in the papers on this. If you closed a major artery on any other major city in the world, people would laugh. The fact that we can't get this open is ridiculous. I know it's a matter of politics. I know it's out of your guys' control, but it is a joke, and it's really embarrassing. But it's more importantly, it is forcing traffic down one road for various reasons, which we all know, and Stag is already, all these things are only going to make it worse. And I will re-emphasise, as I said here, East Sheen Primary, Thompson has all these young children growing up next to major highways where the traffic increases, the particulates, where it's electric vehicles which are heavier, causing da-da-da-da-da. You guys all know this, you read the same stuff I do. Yeah. It's only getting it worse, but the mayor goes on about it, TfL go on about it, yet maybe because we're in West London, maybe they don't particularly think it's a major vote issue, because we're all going to vote Lib Dem anyway, so what the hell. But it is a major issue, and I don't want my kid coughing. She already is coughing. I don't want it to be any worse, because we didn't do anything about it, because, hey, there's no votes in it.
Yeah, no, we hear you. We hear you. Councillor Miller.
Can I just briefly respond, more particularly on the air quality thing, but in terms of Hammersmith Bridge, you're obviously aware that we have no control over what happens with it. Until until a year ago, there was a task force that met regularly, which hasn't met for some time, and we've only just discovered, or our MP has just discovered, that there are in fact meetings going on with TfL and Hammersmith and Fulham and Department for Transport, of which we've not been involved in and we know nothing about. Just to go on to the air quality, and I do understand that, and I would refer you to the last Transport Committee papers. The whole agenda was around air quality, particularly with nitrogen dioxide. That's the one that affects respiratory and asthma and things like that. Really interesting data in there. As a borough, we do really well in terms of our measurements against anyone else. But there are two problems in the borough that are above it, and one is the Upper Richmond Road West, and the other one, in fact, is in Richmond Town Centre. But I would recommend you look at those papers. They're online, pretty heavy reading, but you'll find some data in there, I think, that might reassure you.
Can I just add to that, actually? It goes all the way back again to this up-to-date transport strategy based on the cumulative impact of all the development we've got in the area. And the very fact that our current transport strategy is based on pre-COVID, pre-closure of Hammersmith Bridge, pre-closure of Sheen Gate, and before the reduction in services of trains and buses. So it's just really not fit for purpose, and I think that is why we are all living through this misery. And in relation to Richmond Park, Gareth, I think aren't you on the Richmond Park board?
I am. I was surprised. That's why I brought the microphone closer to myself. Yeah, I'm one of the trustees on the Royal Parks Board, and I absent myself because of conflict of interest on issues relating to the movement strategy, it's called. Is part of the Royal Parks view is that their charitable objects are met most closely by minimising car use through their land, because they are sites of special scientific interest. Actually, there's another S somewhere. It should be a triple SI, but there we go. Sites of special, thank you. Sites of special scientific interest. So they have one may claim a reasonable point to make that if you were going to design a park, if you were going to get a kid with a piece of blank paper and some crayons and say, can you draw me a park? You wouldn't have cars featuring in the picture. And sorry? I don't know. That was before my time on the board. Similarly, we were told, just by the way, on Hammersmith Bridge, we were told, we're coming up for the 5-year anniversary, that if there was a certain government, we would have that fixed by now. And it's been 5 years and it's not been fixed. The task force has not met, to the best of my knowledge, for 2 years. And since the original costs were come up with, we are now looking at a bill, and this is where I'm glad I'm sat down, just shy of £250 million. It was originally about 100 odd, 140, 100. Now it's at 240. If it had been sorted out much quicker, they have a solution on that, but we don't.
Okay, but we're not talking politics tonight, so... Okay, well, I'm conscious of the time. We are running out of time. You do have an opportunity now to come over and have a chat with your councillors. They will be hanging around for a little bit to chat to you in person. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Thank you for our wonderful councillors for taking the time to chat to everyone. Thank you to the audience at home. Oh, Siobhan is saying...
Can I? No? Okay, go on. Right, fine. I was going to say to everybody, I'm going to send all the links of all the things you've brought up tonight will be sent to you in an email through Eventbrite. So anything you've brought up, I will desk research, and get links to you. That's my job to do that, okay? So
all of your issues will be picked up.
Just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Siobhan. All of the issues will be picked up. And so please come and have a chat with everybody, but not with me, because I can't answer your questions.
I also just wanted to say, regarding Hammersmith Bridge, I just wanted to assure you that Barnes councillors do not look at Hammersmith Bridge in a parochial way. We are very conscious of the traffic accumulation in Mortlake and in East Sheen. And although there is a group of people close to the bridge who campaign for it not to be opened, I can assure you that I am very conscious that Hammersmith Bridge is a London artery and we do live in London.